All right, welcome everybody to the Austin DFW San Antonio Tug. My name is Chris Monahan. I'll be your MC for today's event. We are super excited to have this today. As some of y'all know, we've been doing these virtual for the past 2 years, but today we're happy to announce we have our first hybrid tug. So we pulled it off, yay! So we'll show all the smiley faces we got in the room. We still have some people that are trickling in and parking. Austin traffic's a little rough, but yeah, so we're excited to be doing this. We've been talking about it for a long time, and finally the reality has come. So we are back in the Tableau office. We're streaming live from downtown Austin, and we are going to be holding this event here for the next couple months as well. So with this being a hybrid event, we're still working out the technical glitches, so bear with us. So it might be a little bumpy on the meeting, but anyway, so let's jump to it. So before we get started, I just want to thank all the folks every month that help put this event together that are on the Tug Advisory Board. They do everything from attending the bi-weekly meetings to organizing the speakers and organizing the event. And today I'd like to thank Amy for organizing our speaker, and Kobe and Brad for doing the show and tell session, which we're going to have here soon. And especially thank Homer. Homer organized all the logistics on the AV and as well as logistics for getting the room set up. So thank you, Homer, for doing that today. So this is the agenda for today's tug. I'm going to go over the meeting format, couple upcoming events, and then we're going to have our featured speaker, Chris Lewis, who's the Senior Director of BI at JLL, and he's going to give us a presentation around the introduction of Alteryx and how Alteryx can make your Tableau dashboards better. And if you're ever curious too of how Alteryx sort of works with Tableau prep, he'll touch on that as well. So it's a very cool presentation. You don't want to miss it. After that, we're going to do a Q&A. So and then with Chris, and then we'll do a show and tell session. We're going to give a 5-minute short presentation where people can share their tips and tricks and their favorite dashboards. And then after that, for those that are here in person, we're having a happy hour across the street at Upstairs at Caroline. So definitely, if you're here in person, don't miss that. Or if you're watching this from home and you're in Austin, you still have an hour and a half. So you can drive down here and make it there. So, all right, so our meeting format today, this is a live meeting. So it's now in person and virtual. So if you're here in person, smile, because you're going to be put on camera. And if you're virtual, then turn on your camera. We encourage it because we want you all to show your faces. This is a community, and we like seeing everybody month to month. This is a live meeting, not a webinar, so please observe Zoom etiquette. Keep it on mute. But if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. If you have questions for our speaker, go ahead and send the chat over to Homer directly, and he'll gather all the questions, and we'll save those for the end. I'll also put a short survey link in the chat so we can get some feedback on our tug event. That helps us make these events better. All right, just a little bit of housekeeping. So we have a tug event coming up again in September, and as I mentioned, we're going to be doing those here at the Tableau office and as well as virtually. We're going to have Laura Peterson, who's the BI Enablement Director over at JLL. So we got a big JLL crowd coming through the speaking circuit here, but she's going to tell us about, she's going to give us a presentation around listening to feedback as a data analyst. So it's a really interesting presentation. And then after that, we're going to have our happy hour again. If you're not picking up on it, I want everybody to come. We're going to have fun. It's going to be a happy hour. So definitely check it out in person. And then we have our next tug event that's going to be October 13th. So that's it on the housekeeping. With that, I'd like to introduce our featured speaker, Chris Lewis, as I mentioned. He's the Senior Director of Business Intelligence at JLL. He's a Alteryx ace, expert in all things Alteryx, and just a loving father and husband as well. So he's got about 10 years in the BI industry, and I'm really happy to turn it over to you, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks for that introduction. Can you guys all hear me pretty well? Just want to make sure. Fantastic. Get my screen share going, and then if everyone can just let me know that you guys can see my screen. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I heard it. I heard it that time. Got it. Good. Okay. So again, thank you for that introduction. Brief rundown of what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to introduce myself again, give a little bit more detail. We're going to talk about what Alteryx is and the different products they offer. I'm going to talk about the major differences between Alteryx and Tableau Prep, and then the answer to the question of which would be best for my organization, because a lot of the times we're all in data and analytics. How do I pick the best tool to do my job? And then I'll open it up to questions. So again, father of a crazy 16-month-old. This is a picture of her back in March. We took our first plane trip with her, which was scary in the time of COVID. She will not wear a mask no matter how hard we try. I celebrated my 5-year wedding anniversary last October, so nearing that 6-year mark. I'm host to 3 cats. They definitely run the house and make it a mess with all of the hair. I've been using Alteryx for 7 years, Tableau for about the same amount of time. Back in the day, I learned the trifecta, SQL, Alteryx, and Tableau all in one job, and it was phenomenal. And I haven't looked back since. And I've been in analytics and BI for about 10 years. Feel free to follow me, LinkedIn, Twitter. All fun. Oh, and as Chris pointed out, I am an Alteryx ace. I was appointed back in 2020 as part of their first all virtual cohort. So finally got to meet most of the aces in person this year at the conference, which was nice. So what is Alteryx? Alteryx is an analytics platform that offers, I think now 4 or 5 different products that help assist in the automation of analytics processes and put more power into the hands of analysts, whether that be business analysts, data analysts, IT analysts, you name it, it can help benefit. So they allow you to create different pipelines, pull from multiple different sources. We'll talk about a few of these today. We'll talk about Designer, because that's the tool that's similar to Tableau Prep. They have tons of data science embedded into it. Fun fact, Alteryx actually started as a spatial analytics tool. Their name is actually derived from spatial analytics. So if you think of XY coordinates, alter XY, and that's how you get the name of Alteryx. So what products do they actually offer? So I pulled this. This is the list of tools and suites of things that they offer to help in analytics. I would point out the major ones that they really kind of focus on is Designer. So this is a screen grab of what Designer looks like today. I would say probably in the next 3 to 5 years, you'll see it mostly in cloud form. It may still exist as an application, but they're really pushing towards being a cloud tool. You have server over here on the right-hand side. This is our what our JLL one looks like. Just a nice little screen grab. And then the other big thing that they are really focused on, you can see 2 tools that really, or 2 products that really kind of hone in on the machine learning, and that is their intelligence suite package, as well as machine learning. They also have Promote, which allows you to kind of share models within your organization as well. So kind of 3 tools around data science, machine learning, AI. So I'm sure most of you guys know, as being a Tableau user group, you guys probably know what Tableau Prep is, but just in case you don't, it's a self-service data preparation tool, specifically built by Tableau, allows you to kind of prep, combine, shape, do whatever you need to do to your data, just to kind of get it in more of a better kind of layout, as well as kind of better quality heading into your dashboard. So like I said earlier, the tool that compares the most to prep would be Designer / Designer Cloud. I'm going off of my knowledge of Tableau Prep from a couple of years ago when I've used it. So if some of these things have changed, I apologize in advance. So the major differences, one of the big things you see, they are very similar in the fact that they can connect to a lot of data sources. They can input from multiple different data flows. So if I have data in SQL Server and Excel and Smartsheet or wherever you may house data, a lot of both tools can handle that. They can go out and they can get it. They both can clean data very, very well. They have lots of different tools that allow you to go in and look at quality and see if you need to fix nulls or you need to remove data because there's nothing there. I don't know how many times I pull in Excel files into Alteryx, and for some reason it recognizes a bunch of rows that are just all completely empty. Don't know why, but you got to remove those. You don't want those going into Tableau and into your dashboard. And the last thing, they both output data very, very well for any final analysis. I will say, from an advantages standpoint, Alteryx does kind of have a more robust kind of tool set that is native to it. One being they can directly do API calls, which the last I remember Tableau Prep cannot do. The spatial analytics. Now you can do spatial analytics once you're in Tableau, but Alteryx, starting as a spatial tool, really kind of has created some great tools that allow you to do those spatial analytics quickly, creating trade areas and figuring out how much of another data set is in that trade area, and do it in mere seconds. And then also the more advanced analytics, they have the entire intelligence suite that allows you to do assisted modeling. So once you prep all of your data, what do? I need help deciding what model is best for me. You can do that using Intelligence Suite. From an ETL perspective, we just look at ETL, which is extract, transform, load. Tableau Prep and Alteryx can both be leveraged to do the same tasks. Both of them can falter in different areas, depending on how you leverage them. Another big difference, which is usually the deal breaker for some companies, is Alteryx is about 6 to 7 times more expensive than Prep is from a single license cost. Alteryx does scale, so when you scale, they tend to give you discounts. So always try to go for more than one license. I would say the same about Tableau. I'm sure they give nice deals when you get beyond the one license. The last thing is, like, how do you decide if you have all of these different options to you? What do I choose? Well, my answer to you is going to be, it depends. And the reason why it depends is if you're looking at both tools side by side, if you're just solely focused on prepping your data for your dashboard, and you already have Tableau set up, you already have a Tableau community in your organization, you're not going to get as much benefit out of Alteryx right away. And the reason why is because you already have this robust community set up. Tableau Prep's a little bit cheaper, so you're going to be able to get it into your budget a little bit quicker. Alteryx, new tool, you're going to have to learn it, you're going to have to upskill. Now, Alteryx does have a phenomenal community to leverage, but it is a little bit more pricey. Now, if you come to me and tell me that you have 60 users that are going to need to use a tool, okay, now let's talk about Alteryx, because now the price comes down a little bit. You might be able to work it into your budget. You also know that you want your data scientists to use it. You want your financial analysts to use it. You want IT to use it. Okay, now you're really talking, because there's plenty of use cases to grow into those other sides of Alteryx Designer that allow you to kind of take advantage of the full license cost, right? You have spatial analytics that you can do within your data science team. You can also have them leverage some things in Intelligence Suite, as well as some of the native low-code modeling tools. You can also incorporate from an IT side. Alteryx has the ability to incorporate R and Python code. Now we're really talking because most IT is headed towards the path of using Python code to do ETL and mainframe still a little bit, which Alteryx can also do. Alteryx can run scripts. So now when you're talking about all these different use cases, now you really start to dive into where Alteryx can become uh, like a big ROI for you. The last thing is if you're really starting to scale there, now you can start to talk about Alteryx Server, which when you want to share dashboards, you need Tableau Server. When you want to automate fully with Alteryx, you need Alteryx Server. You can schedule different runtimes. You can schedule any sort of work, whether it be a standard daily run every day at 7, or maybe you're really unique and you need a schedule to run the 3rd, 5th, and 7th of every month. Alteryx can handle that. So when you start to dive really deep into, I have more robust use cases, Alteryx becomes maybe the better option for you. And maybe you just want to, learn a new tool. It's a phenomenal tool to learn. So the last thing I'm going to talk about before I, kind of dive into my review of everything we just talked about is Alteryx does play hand in hand really well with Tableau. It has tools not only to publish directly to Tableau server, but you can also create just straight extracts that you save kind of in a file folder. So if I need to start visually diving into my data, I can create an extract, bring it into Tableau, start seeing what's going on with it. Alteryx does have some of that natively, but it's nowhere near as good as visualizing data in charts and graphs like you can in Tableau. And the other thing, just being able to publish to Tableau server directly, when you do get Alteryx server and schedule reports, just like on Tableau server where I can schedule data extracts and refreshes on a normal cadence, I can do the same with Alteryx. So when somebody comes in 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, I had scheduled my data run for 7 a.m. It finished at 7:30. They can now refresh their dashboard on Monday morning and the data's there because I published it directly to Tableau server. So again, it really does help enable all of those things. So just a review and some tips. Alteryx is a suite of low-code, no-code tools and products that help you automate your analytic processes. So I really didn't dive into the fact that it is low-code, no-code, but really you don't have to learn. It's drag and drop. Drag and drop tools, just like Tableau Prep. There is a little bit of nuance in some of the things, like you can use regex. Everyone knows that there is a little bit of code in regex and it's a pain to use. You have Tableau Prep, which is Tableau's ETL portion of the tool. Both of them have their advantages, right? Both of them have their disadvantages. In a broader sense, Alteryx just has more capabilities, but it costs more to get those capabilities, right? So deciding what your organization needs really does come down to, am I going to leverage Alteryx as a full tool set, or am I only looking for ETL? I mean, if you tell me you're just looking for ETL, I may not even recommend either Tableau Prep or Alteryx, but that's a conversation for another day. So overall, I mean, that's where it is. So I'm gonna actually open up for questions, and if we have time, I can always open Alteryx and kind of give you guys a rundown as well. If you guys are interested in that, I can give a little brief demo of how it works.
Yeah, Chris, why don't we show a little demo and then we'll jump into the questions afterwards. Yep.
Sounds good. All right. So here's just a really quick demo. So just to kind of give everyone an idea of what the layout is here. Over here on the left-hand side is going to be our settings pane. So anytime we kind of drag a tool down in here, this left-hand side of our screen is always going to change based off of whatever tool you bring down in here. So anytime I just brought in a straight text input, so in this tool, I can actually just put in some data here. I actually have the ability to copy and paste something into here just so I have data to work with. I have all these different tabs up here that contain all my different tools I can use. They're grouped together so you can kind of understand what it is you're going to get out of that tab. So thinking about preparation, this is where you can do a lot of cleansing. You can create formulas, sort your data, just kind of really go through a suite of prepping your data. You have a tab that has all the join capabilities. So they have a few different ways you can bring your data together. Parsing your data, transforming your data. So this is going to be more of aggregating or manipulating the shape of your data. So one thing I always remember from my Tableau days is thinking about long versus wide data. So changing that shape to fit whatever you need is going to come from here. Within database, this is similar to in and out, but specific to kind of working inside your database's parameters and using your database's resources versus your machine. You have reporting tools, some documentation, which I always recommend people to leverage a lot. Sometimes when you're looking at Alteryx, there's a million different ways to solve a problem. And without actually adding documentation to any of your workflows, you can sometimes lose what you're trying to do. You have a suite of predictive tools here and kind of data science tools. So you can look at data classifications. You can actually run predictive models. You can do A/B testing and time series. So all of these, if you notice, it's kind of hard to see. That actually works a little bit better when I click on it. All of the, or a bunch of these tools have a little R in them. You can see in the icon there. That actually means they're all based off of R coding. So the nice thing with all of these tools that do have that, you can actually drill into them and you can actually see the R code that's written behind the scenes. So I can open this up and I can go to the R tool. And if I'm familiar with R and I am used to this coding, I can drill right in and see what they're actually doing. Is that what I want to do? Can I understand that? Like, is that really how we're going to go about doing this? No, we don't want to do it this way. We don't want to use this modeling type. Okay, let's go to a different tool then. So one big advantage there. You also have some prescriptive tools. One of the coolest ones here is optimization. So if you're trying to run optimization problems as well as kind of looping and trying to find the best optimization, this is one of the coolest tools I've seen in Alteryx when you can have a proper use case for it. Just like I talked about before, here's your Tableau output. So I can actually write directly to Tableau. I also have a publish to Tableau server tool. So I have the ability to publish directly to the server. Both really phenomenal tools that we use a lot. The other cool thing that they have is you can incorporate census data. So one of my favorite projects that I ever worked on from Alteryx was identifying where to build a new location. So we got to use census data as well as a lot of the spatial tools that Alteryx has inherently to kind of look at different cities, break down the census into, I want to say we did half mile by half mile grid spaces to understand different metrics in those grid spaces, leveraging the census data. And then we displayed it in Tableau to kind of show a few different things. We looked at population density. We looked at average, I think it was median income per household. And then the last thing we looked at is unemployment rate, because we wanted to understand, in the different areas, how could we hire? Would it be easy to hire there? Would it be hard to hire there? So all sorts of cool things that we leveraged there. Like I said before, you can also do coding. So here's an R tool, here's a Python tool, and one of my favorites, run command tool. So obviously R and Python run on R code and Python code. This run command tool actually allows you to run an external program. So if you create scripts, maybe a VB script or an exe or anything like that, you can actually run them right out of Alteryx. So you can open other programs, run those things. We've actually leveraged this in previous projects to open an Excel file and have it refresh automatically, and then you save it. So a lot of fun there as well. You do break into machine learning. So here's the assisted modeling I talked about. Then the last cool thing that I broke into at previous companies was building my own tools. So it's really, really cool. They have a Python SDK as well as an HTML SDK. Similar to how people build extensions for Tableau, you can build your own tools for Alteryx and kind of share them with different people. So that's kind of a brief rundown of Alteryx, how you can get into it. I will say, if you are really wanting to get into it, the other thing I would point you to is the Alteryx community. Phenomenal, just like Tableau's. You have tons of different resources out here that allow you to learn. They have instructor-led training. They have their first 2 certifications are free. They have interactive lessons and learning paths to get you started. So really lots of good resources out there to get going. So overall, it's been a phenomenal tool. I've loved it. I've loved using it in conjunction with Tableau. It just really simplifies business intelligence. I was in finance and accounting for a little over 5 years. It made my job of forecasting and then trying to share those forecasts with other people so simple. So it's just been really great to work with both of these tools.
Very cool. Thanks, Chris. Well, yeah, why don't we open the floor for some questions? Homer, do we have any questions inbound yet? I know I got a couple.
I don't have any at this point.
Okay, in the back there? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got a live mic. Works and everything. Yeah.
All right. So I had a real situation where one of our senior management declared that you do everything in Python. So what would be the argument you would tell them, or I could use to say, hey, I really think to buy this versus, I mean, I know my answer, but do you have any idea what would you say to somebody comes and say, no, we're not spending money on this, just use Python or R in that case?
Did you get that, Chris?
I heard bits and pieces.
Yeah. In
It's a
general,
little
the
hard to
question
hear.
was, I'll repeat the question. So if I have a use case where that might require Python or some scripting, and my manager, I want to go to my manager and get Alteryx, what kind of argument would I make for Alteryx when they say just use Python or Go script? Is that correct, fairly? Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so it really, kind of like what I was saying earlier. I mean, if you have one use case where you're only going to use it once, it's really hard to make the case for Alteryx. I believe the base cost right now of an Alteryx license is a little over 5,000 a year per license. So really, if you come to me and tell me, well, I have this one use case, okay, you're not going to get $5,000 worth of ROI out of that one use case. So really, even when the Alteryx salespeople come and talk to you, they ask how many different departments are going to leverage it. Because once you start to break into multiple use cases and multiple ways of leveraging the tool, then it actually starts to bring back ROI. I would say a an analyst using it for about 3 months will get it back cost-wise. You're going to save time, you're going to save money by saving time, as well as a lot of people have use cases out there that generate revenue or just cost-saving accounts. I would actually tell you to come out here in the Learn. There's actually Alteryx use cases out here that show specific ROI, and it's by industry and by department. Take a look at those, because those actually kind of show maybe you have one idea for a use case and need more ideas, right? So start with one and then come out here, generate more ideas, and now you have an idea to take and say, here's what we want to do. It'll pay us back in this amount of months, and then you have a starting point. But one use case is it's going to be tough to make a case for an Alteryx license.
Yeah. Did that help? Yeah. Good question. Any other questions? Yeah.
Hey, Chris,
Brad.
I've got one. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead, Cub.
Yeah, so we've been using Alteryx for over 8 years, but I haven't heard of the cloud version. Can you sort of update me and tell me what that is, or is it available now, or how does that all work?
Yeah, so right now I believe they're in, I want to say beta version 2. The acquisition of Trifacta recently has kind of accelerated their focus on it, because Trifacta was essentially a cloud version of an ETL tool. And so they're trying to incorporate both of them going forward. What it's supposed to do is kind of leverage all the things you would learn for your core certification would be what you could do in the base Designer Cloud version. And then they're consistently adding tools. I don't know, I will be honest, I don't know if it is live yet where you can buy it. But that is something I can go back and I can ask and let you know. But right now I believe it is still just in beta.
Okay, thanks. And thanks for presenting today too. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brad, you had a question?
Sure, yeah. So you mentioned that you can connect to census data, which is cool, but there's other publicly available data sources. For example, like drug public data sets that are in Amazon S3 buckets. Can Alteryx pull those in, those publicly available data sets as well?
So one of the cool things that Alteryx has is actually an Amazon S3 download. So as long as you have an access key and a secret key for those S3 buckets and you know what the bucket is and what object you need out of it, absolutely. And this is native. I even wrote a tool because this does limit to these 4 data file format types. I actually wrote one that allowed you to grab Excel files and text files as well. And it's like 4 lines of code that I incorporated, I think, via Python. So yes, it can do that. It can do API calls. I didn't talk about that very much. SFTPs, you name it, Alteryx 99% of the time can hit it. I don't want to say all the time because I have run into cases where they just don't have those types of connectors. One of them being if you guys use Essbase in Excel. That was one I used at Walmart back in the day. And it was I believe it's an Oracle product. That specific Oracle product, Alteryx doesn't have a connector for. One of those random ones that I know off the top of my head.
Thanks.
All right, cool. Any other questions? Someone asked, from the community I saw, isn't Tableau Prep included with a creator license? It is. That is the advantage of having Tableau Prep. It comes with your creator, so it's essentially free. So that again, to Chris's point, you have to have the cost justification for Alteryx, but it has a lot more capabilities as well. So, you know, it's just depending on your use case. I had a question, Chris.
Yeah.
You can go ahead. Yeah, around training. So is there like how do you get started with Alteryx, and how long does it take to become sort of proficient at it? You know?
I would tell you it depends on how much you have or how much time you have to dedicate to learning it. I've seen people, their first certification, now they have a micro certification, but their core certification, which is kind of their first one, just means you have a base level understanding of Alteryx. I've seen people pass it within a week.
Okay.
So, they go through, a training course for a week, and by the end of the week, they're core certified. I've seen some people I would say in a normal business setting, you're probably looking at about 3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months.
I think that's a reasonable, and all of the things that Alteryx will tend to point you to if you don't want to pay additional money. They have a get started learning path, and this is where I direct everyone that comes through here. It's interactive. I'm not going to play the whole thing, I promise. But it has, you can even have getting started with tax and audit or getting started with HR. But if you go into this general one, it's going to cover, once it gets there, all these different things that are actually going to be needed to feel like you can do standard ETL in Alteryx. So if you go through this, I'd say I don't think they have like a list of like how long this takes, but I would say you're probably looking at about 15 hours worth of content here, depending on how long you take to do the practice exercises. Plus they have tons of other things out there, interactive lessons. They still do have some instructor-led trainings that are like webinars as well. And all of this is free to any user.
Very cool. Very cool. I had another question too. I guess if you had to name like your top 3 tricks or best practices, maybe for Alteryx, what would you tell people?
Oh man, my top 3. Trying to make sure that they're the good ones. In an input data tool, you can use wildcards. So if I have in a folder, I have like 60 CSVs and they're all in the same format. If I use a wildcard, it'll pull all 60 in with one tool. That's probably tip number 1, just because it simplifies everything. Tip number 2 would probably be how quickly you can generate data with Alteryx. So they have a thing called generate rows that allows you to generate tons of rows of randomized data. And then the last one would be a multi-row formula tool. So you can actually calculate within your data. You want to make sure to sort it first. You can calculate within your data like differences between rows above and below itself. And you can actually change the number of rows. So if I wanted to create if I had 12 months in my data set and I wanted a rolling 3-month average, to do that in Tableau, you're going to have to do some crazy calculations. In Alteryx, it's a single tool that allows you to create like running averages. So those would probably be my top 3.
Yeah, those are awesome. Those are great tips. Yeah, I like to create data. I can use that for a lot of demos. So that's pretty awesome. That's really cool. Well, Chris, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're here in Austin, and wish you could have made it this time, but we'll see you at the next tug.
Yes.
But I used to say let's give a virtual round of applause, but now we can say a real round of applause, right? Yeah. All right. Thanks, Chris.
Awesome.
All right,
Thank you,
everybody.
guys.
Thanks. All right. So for our next sort of session here, we wanted to go ahead and try something new. We're trying what we're calling Tableau Show and Tell. And this is where we're asking folks to present a short 5-10 minute presentation on something that they find very interesting. It could be a tip or trick, or it could be a dashboard that they've built. We have a couple presenters today. We asked for submissions, so We'll do this again at another event. So if you are out in the audience, out there in virtual land, and you'd like to present, just let us know, contact one of us on the advisory board, and we'd love to have you present to the group next time. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greta and Kobe. Kobe, you guys know he's on our advisory board. Greta Blumey is a senior analyst at J. Rene Footwear Group, and she's got about 7 years of Tableau and Alteryx experience. So they're going to show us the e-commerce dropship analysis dashboard using layered maps. So let me stop sharing my screen here, and Kobe and Greta, you there?
Greta, I think you may be on mute.
All right. Give it 1 second. All right, Greta, you there? I think we can hear you. I think we lost you. All right. The joys of hybrid meeting. So, all right. All right, Greta. We'll circle back if you want to work with your mic. Brad, you're up. So.
Okay. So I will, okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. So
Yeah.
Go ahead and share my screen real quick. So I just wanted to take, I'll just share my whole screen. So this is a dashboard I had created off of census data. And it also does some COVID analysis in here as well. So for my job at the time, I was working with COVID data to compare basically outbreak versus demographic data. So I just initially went out and downloaded a bunch of census data, and then I figured, well, maybe I can make this generic and just make a generic tool here that anyone could use to plug in a county profile. So yeah, if we let's pick a county here in Texas, just randomly picking a county here, and then basically what this does for us is it highlights the county and the state. We can pick from a couple of different dimensions here. So for example, we're looking at population density and then the 2019 population. But you can change these. All of these metrics are available in the census data, so it's pretty cool. And then I also had blended in COVID data in here as well. So things like the COVID vaccination rate is one of the metrics that we have in here as well. But now we can actually see some different statistics, and I did some fancy things with tooltips here. So whenever you hover over the tooltip for the county, you see the outline of the county. Whenever you hover over for the state, you see the rest of the state. And then for the country, you see it here, excluding county and the state that are included there. So you can just see some different metrics for racial demographics, employment profiles, and then just other metrics. So what we have here is using sets. What it's doing is it's showing us the stats, all of these different metrics for the county that was selected, the rest of the state, and the rest of the country. This is a look at the classifications of counties in the country. So I just thought it was interesting just to know how they're classified. So we have this six different buckets of how the U.S. government buckets different population sizes. So you go from large central metro all the way down to what's called non-core. And it's kind of interesting, I think, to look at some of these metrics by these different areas. So on the left, it's just showing us where these are distributed in terms of geographically. And on the right, we can see where the people actually live, so population distribution. And then it's interesting to see some of these things like the Democratic vote in these large metro areas versus in the rural areas, and then how that changes from Republicans, the exact opposite. So some of those things are interesting to look at. So you can just kind of scroll through here and just look at all of our entire country, or you can just pick a certain state here. So just for fun, let's do Texas. Let's see what So here's our distribution in Texas. You can see basically everybody lives in these big cities here. And then here's what we look like from a distribution. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll just kind of move along here. This is just showing all county data, so what, in a map format. So what you can do is actually just, it probably would make more sense if we were to filter this on one particular state. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. All right, so now looking at the state, what it allows you to do is actually pick the maps that you might want to see. So you can just add in any kind of maps. So if we wanted to see, let's just see our adult vaccination rates. How about that? So in October 2020, how many adults were vaccinated? So now, oh, I'm sorry, and Texas actually is one of the only states that doesn't report that. So that was a bad example. Let's change us to another state. We're the only state in the country that doesn't do it. Yeah. So here you go. So here you can see those different metrics, and then just have some dashboard actions in here that highlights, as you highlight the county here, it highlights it in the map. And then finally, let's see. I have two more tabs to show. So this one would be a correlation analysis. So as I was looking at this data, I thought this is kind of interesting. There's a lot of interesting things in here. So this allows the user to explore and try to find correlations. So for example, you can compare, this is, in this particular dropdown, we're looking at the October 2020 adult vaccination rate to the Republican vote. And you can see as your Republican county, as your counties are more Republican, your vaccination rate goes down. And then if you were to look at it for the opposite, so your 2020 Democratic, it's going to be the exact opposite. I'm not trying to get political, but it is kind of interesting to just look at these different correlations that you can see here. So that you can see these, each circle here represents a different county. And then over here, you bucket them into these different bins. And then down here, all of this is showing us always showing the age population and then the number of counties here. And then these two bar charts are just going to show you all of these in an aggregate format. And then here we just see it for all of our metrics here. So this allows the user to kind of build your own analysis, and then you can do this using these drop-down menus here. And you can even show the results by county or by states. And then on this distribution here, on these bins, we actually have the option to change these bin sizes, because sometimes they get kind of crazy depending on what kind of data we pick. So to give the user, to make sure this can work, you kind of have to give the user the ability to change how these bins are sized. So this is all driven by parameters in Tableau. So, and then finally, the final tab here is just my own analysis of COVID. And actually, I would have to reset it here. I forget that it does that. So I need to refresh. And that should reset everything. Yes, absolutely.
Could you repeat the question?
The correlation coefficient on this correlation here. No, this would be this is the October 2020 adult vaccination rate is 0.47, so it's 47% of adults, and then this is showing us 62% Republican vote, but that's not. I imagine it would probably be here if you hover over the trend line. That's probably where you would see that. Yes, I didn't extract it for the top though. So then the final tab here was just a story that I put together using these different parameters. So the user can come in here and change all this, but what I would try to do is create a story. So this is just using the different parameters to tell the story of a COVID analysis that would look at things like vaccination rate versus death rate, elderly population versus cumulative death rate. So different things like that. And each of these, it just changes the parameters in So it's using, all of these are the exact same tab that we just saw. It's just utilizing the Tableau storyboards to take different snapshots of those. So this was something that I just had created kind of sort of for work. The work analysis was a little bit different, but I just kind of generic sized it and removed all of our data from it and then just published it on my Tableau public profile. And I would encourage everyone to have a Tableau public profile. It's a great place to just showcase your work. It's a good place to, I've actually presented on that before. So I won't go on that because I can have so I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Yeah, round of applause for Brad. That was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I really thought that analysis was interesting. Where did you get those data sets again, you said?
So they're all public.
Right.
Actually, I don't want to share again, but basically you can, if you just Google since COVID data,
Yeah.
it's pretty, the US government is very, like, they really want people to use this data.
Mm-hmm.
So they make it very, very accessible. It's free. They have different APIs you can call it, or you can even just download it in CSV or Excel format.
Oh, cool.
So it's refreshed daily.
Okay. All right. Cool. Very cool. All right. Let's revisit Greta and Kobe. Any luck yet, or no? No. No. Sorry. That's all right. That's all right. Well, Kobe, I don't know if
Okay,
it makes sense.
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen. Greta's the
Yeah.
expert on this, but I think I can get the point across, right?
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Well, not for sure, but we could try. Okay, so the context of this is we're a manufacturer of women's footwear, and we sell to different retailers, but we were trying to like look at store locations versus where we ship. We do what's called drop ship, where different retailers, we, ship from our warehouse, the customer place on their, like say a Dillard's or Nordstrom or somebody place the order there, but the order gets fulfilled from us. So we also have our own websites. We have all these different addresses of where we ship things. So we started looking at maps. So the first thing we do, and she's got some really good notes over here. So the trick to this is the new layered maps that Tableau came out with. So let's just go, and the first thing she was talking about is dropping onto the zip code. We'll just put zip out here, and we're going to pull the measure on here. Down here, we'll put like the number of pairs, and we'll drop that on color. And what we'll basically do there is we'll change the color to something. Let's go to colors. Maybe we'll make that actually go to something like. Well, that's actually not working exactly. So, never mind. Okay, she just corrected me. We're going to put the invoice pairs onto size. There we go. That's it. Okay, and then we change the color to that to be something a little different. Let's make it more of blue. Okay, so we have this map, and then basically we can make this the size a little bigger. But the trick here to make this really work is then you've got this one map layer, then you go here to where the store locations are. And then from the store location, you can drop on the same thing. You can drop the zip on there. And we just double click. Greta, I thought these were already linked. Okay. I forgot. My bad. Here we go. Okay. Come back to the store extract. This is the trick, and I always forgot that. You've got to drag it up to the top up here where it said add a marks layer. And then you can, from there, you can go in and let's zoom into the map a little bit here, a little bit better. And so now you have the two individual colors. So let's go make this a different color. Okay, so we got that, and then you can make the sizes. So you're seeing the orange color, make that a little smaller, somewhere like right in there. And we'll go back to the other zip code. These are on the individual layers. And so actually, let's make that, let's go over here. Let's make it more of a, find something in the yellow family. There. So you've got the orange, so you can see the store's location and then all the shipments around it. And so we did that, really quick. To do that before, you had to blend all the data sets. And so this was the Alteryx to connect all the store locations, all the shipment locations, try to get them in all one data set that you could, work from. But with this layered map thing, it just made it super easy. And again, you control the maps individually, again, with the size and all that kind of thing. And that was really hard to do before. So that's basically it. I know I sort of did a terrible job of that, but the technical difficulties.
We're clapping over here. Excellent job, Kobe. Awesome. Team. Yeah, question.
Is it dual axis you're using or what's the difference?
Did you hear the question, Kobe?
I
So
did
was that
not.
dual axis or what was the difference?
No, it's a dual layered map. So we could have actually, well, let me do it again just to see, because this concept is really huge. So by taking, let's go to, so we start with a blank canvas and we're on this one data set, dropship extract. And then we do this, it creates that.
We're not seeing your screen, Kobe.
That's not good either. It looks really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so I came to this one data set, data source, and I put zip. So I created the map. Then we came to the store locations, and all we did was drag it up here to this layer. So you could think of it as dual axis, but the difference with the map would be I could add a third one here. I could add a fourth one, and you can layer them. And so you can easily combine multiple data sets with different kind of metrics. They could be geocoded, like actual street address or whatever, but each one would be independent, but it looks like they're all laid on top of each other. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, cool. That's really cool. Awesome. Well, great presentation, Greta. Thank you as well. We'll have you present next time, so cool. All right, guys. Well, let me share my screen one last time here. So that concludes our first hybrid tug, guys. You guys were awesome. I appreciate everyone taking the time to tune in, and those of you that came down personally. We have a reward for you. We have a happy hour across the street and upstairs at Caroline. So we'll be starting here shortly. So right after we break here. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.